Bonjour, my name is Louis Rheaume. Welcome to l'Académie Culinaire. Today I'm going to show you a way of making a great saffron and red pepper risotto. First off, we want to start with an onion because a risotto needs onions, garlic, something aromatic. Now, to peel an onion, very simply cut off both ends but not completely in order to be able to pull the skin away from the onion, and then very easily tug at it, then get the whole onion peeled in one go. Once you've peeled the onion, you want to dice it. Always notice where the root part was, because that's where the onion is held together. Cut towards the root part, but not completely through. Why is that? Because then you'll be working still with only one piece instead of many. Do the same thing in the other axis, and at the middle cut through so you can lay it flat. Then, by cutting in a third axis, you get beautiful diced onion very easily. First, you start off with a little butter in the pot, and then you add your diced onions. Stir that in well. And you don't want to caramelize the onions. You just want them to soften. Once they are softened, then we will add the rice. Now the rice for a risotto is special. It's round grain rice. This is round grain rice, and this is especially arborio rice. But via carnarole, via loneana, those are all kinds of rice that are perfect for a risotto. They all have in common this round grain. If you take long grain to do a risotto, you won't get that nice creamy texture. Once you see your onions have started to soften like this, now's the time to add your rice. Add your rice before you add any liquid, and make sure you mix the rice well with the onions and the fat in order to coat every grain of rice with a little bit of the fat. Now what this does is it gets into the pores of the rice grains, and it helps them to open up. So when you're going to be adding the liquid, it's going to be more easily absorbed by the grains of rice. Now, once your rice has been well coated in the fat, before it starts turning golden, deglaze with a little bit of white wine. That sound you hear is a good sound. It means that whatever is stuck to the bottom of your pot is now getting back into this wonderful liquid, and you're starting to get this nice saucy juice that's going to be the basis of the risotto. Now let the wine reduce completely. That means it has to become not completely dry, but you mustn't see any liquid at the bottom of your pot. That's going to be the time when you're ready to start adding your broth. So once your wine is well reduced, it's time to start adding the broth. And add the broth little by little, so maybe half a cup to a cup at a time, and let the broth work its way into the rice before adding much more. You want the mixture to become almost not dry, but you don't want to see any liquid at the bottom before you start adding a bit more broth. That's the secret to a very nice risotto. Once your wine has completely reduced, add a little bit of saffron. Saffron is a pistil from the crocus flower. Now if you have this very good quality Iranian saffron, 4-5 little pistils will be quite enough to color and to give a beautiful taste to your risotto. If you're adding Spanish saffron, add a bit more, maybe 6 to 8 pistils. And if you're using American saffron, then do add a lot, like a teaspoon, because it's not actually crocus flour. It's another flour, and it does give a nice color, but it's not quite as fragrant. Every time you see that the rice has absorbed most of the liquid, you add another half a cup to a cup of stock or broth. So make sure you blend in the broth, the stock, very well before adding much more. And if you do that till the end of your broth, you'll have a beautiful creamy risotto. To dice a pepper first, you have to core it. A good trick is to take off the head, just pull at the insides. Make sure you take care of all the seeds that are inside, and there you go, ready to cut. Now we're ready to dice. Simply cut in long strips. Again, try to make sure that you hold on to your knife by its blade. It's more secure that way. And to cut like a real pro, you have to let the knife slide along your finger. So always keep a contact between the fingers that are holding the veg and the blade. If you do this, you'll make sure never to cut yourself. You can find lots of Parmesan cheese imitation on the market, so be careful. It's usually written on the back, Parmigiano Reggiano. Now, it's expensive, but it's very good. You have other brands of cheese like Grana Padano that are essentially the same milk, made in the same region, same cheese, but not aged as long. So, if you're using Grana, you're using a younger kind of Parmesan cheese. And it's very good also. The important thing is to get a good quality cheese. Try to grate it yourself or have it grated at the store when you're buying it, and use it fresh. Now, the amount you use is really to your taste. It's important to put a little bit of cheese simply because it's going to help this risotto become really creamy, and whatever stock is left in the risotto is going to be bound by the fat in the cheese. So do add a little bit of cheese, even if you're watching your fat intake. It's beautiful in the risotto. Now you see the texture is starting to change. You don't see any stock at the bottom, and the rice is becoming nice and plump. So this is pretty much our last addition of stock. Once this has been absorbed, we're going to be ready to add the peppers and also the Parmesan cheese. Once your last addition of stock has been absorbed by the rice, you see it's starting to get really creamy. Now's the time to add your veg. Now in this case, we're adding color. A nice red pepper, diced, will give a lot of personality to this nice risotto. But don't forget, this risotto is essentially rice, good stock, and good Parmesan cheese. Parmesan we want to add at the last minute. First thing we do, get it off the fire. We don't want it to burn, we don't want it to stick, so off the fire we'll add a good quantity of Parmesan if we like it. Nice, salty, and really of this great Reggiano taste. Mix it in well until all the cheese has melted, and you'll notice that if there was a little bit of humidity left, a little bit of moisture, the Parmesan is going to pull all that moisture into a really creamy sauce. Beautiful dish. And it's ready to serve. Top it off with just a little sprig of thyme, and you've got a beautiful dish that's very healthy, but very, very heartwarming.